So we're actually here today because of my wife. She's able to vote, so she's getting out on my behalf and also on the other behalf of 1.6 million felons that can't vote.
Yeah. Just make sure you have your photo ID with you. Go right ahead and say your wife.
No, I can't vote. I can't vote.
You go in, though.
Oh, no. I'll wait.
Marquis McKenzie can't vote because he was convicted of a felony 14 years ago. Florida is one of 4 states that permanently disenfranchises residents with a felony record. That means 1.6 million Floridians, about 1 in 10 adults, are permanently disenfranchised. All that could change in this upcoming midterm election.
The state confirmed that they did get enough signatures to get a constitutional amendment on the November ballot.
Some people are not allowed to cast their ballots because of criminal records.
It's called the Voting Restoration Amendment, and it would automatically restore voting rights to convicted felons.
After collecting more than 1 million signatures, Florida Rights Restoration Coalition was able to put Amendment 4 on the ballot this November. The initiative would automatically restore voting rights for people who have completed their felony sentences in Florida. Those convicted of murder or violent sexual assault would be excluded.
Nothing speaks more to citizenship than being able to vote. Florida currently disenfranchises over 1.68 million Floridians. About 1.4 million of those individuals have already completed all portions of their sentence.
Not being able to participate in our democracy makes me feel like a second-class citizen. It makes me feel less of a dad. You know, I have a 7 and a 4-year-old. Us being able to vote is very important to their future.
When I came home and got involved into politics, realizing that the way you could change a lot of policy is by voting, I realized I couldn't have no partake or say into none of that.
After he left prison, Marquis started his own cleaning business. At 28, he and his fiancée have 3 children. Because of Florida's disenfranchisement laws, he has never voted. Marquis was convicted of armed robbery at age 14, and prosecutors tried him as an adult. He spent 2 years in prison and then 6 on parole. That was 12 years ago.
I think that's very unjust to be able to take my rights away as a juvenile. Now again, like I said, I do take full responsibility for the crime that I committed, but I think it should be a little different.
Florida, like many southern states, wrote its disenfranchisement law shortly after the Civil War. White lawmakers wanted to prevent newly freed slaves from gaining political power. Most southern states have since repealed their laws, but each state handles reinstating the right to vote differently. Maine and Vermont allow people to vote while in prison. In most states, civil rights are restored when ex-felons leave prison or complete their sentence. But Florida, Iowa, Kentucky, and Virginia disenfranchise for life. Today, there are over 6 million people disenfranchised across the country because of a felony conviction. Nearly a quarter of them live in Florida, and the vast majority stand to regain their voting rights if the amendment passes.
It has gotten to the point where this affects everyone. This is no longer a black, brown, or white issue. This is not a Democratic or Republican issue. And when you have 10% of the voting population here in Florida affected by this, you know there's a problem. You know this is something that affects everyone.
Sometimes it's a bit overwhelming to realize that because of my past, that I won't be able to vote or have a say into my life, into my future, into the laws that affect me. I feel like it's an eternal punishment. Like, once your debt is paid, it's not paid in the state of Florida.
Currently, Floridians can restore their voting rights through a clemency process. However, under the current administration, the process is arbitrary, long, and tedious.
Scott implemented a system where you have to wait 5 to 7 years just to apply to get your vote back, then submit an application, then wait more, then, in many cases, have to travel to Tallahassee, which no one should ever have to do under any circumstances, to argue your case in person.
And so if I'm lucky enough, though, to have a hearing after waiting 17 years, when I walk in those doors, I have less than 1% of a chance of getting my rights restored. And I can be denied for any or no reason at all, because that decision is a purely arbitrary decision.
This is a board of clemency, okay? There's no law we're following, so we get to make our decisions based on our own beliefs.
Since Rick Scott took office 8 years ago, he has only restored voting rights to about 3,200 people. In comparison, the previous governor restored more than 155,000 voting rights to former felons in his last 4 years in office.
When we seen how easy it was with just a signature on a pen to disenfranchise so many folks, we knew that we had to get that power out of the hands of politicians and put it in the hands of people.
If Amendment 4 passes in November, it would be the biggest enfranchisement initiative since women's suffrage. It could also change the political landscape in the most populous swing state.
You know, this country is a country that was built on second chances, and we want to make sure that Florida aligns itself with the rest of the country on that.
So what's it feel like standing out here and not being able to do what your wife is doing in there?
It's heartbreaking, but I think I'll be in there very soon. So this shirt, it means justice, freedom. It speaks a lot of value when it comes down to us being able to vote. Did it? So if we want to change the future for our generation, we have to start now and start showing them the way. So I feel good about it.